Welcome, sensitive hearts, true story seekers, and those who know that behind every smile there's a quiet storm. You're home again, you're on Secrets Behind the Stars. Today, I'm asking you to take a deep breath before you listen, because this isn't just another Hollywood whisper or a glossy slideshow of red carpet moments. Tonight, we dive into the marrow of something raw. We're talking about one of our most beloved actresses, the luminous Elçin Sangu, and the open ache carrying the name of Baris Arduc. If you've ever loved and lost, or loved and never quite let go, this will resonate in the deepest part of you. But before we cross that threshold, do a small act of solidarity. Tap like to stand with Elçin, subscribe so you never miss our unfolding journeys, and if you want to be part of the heartbeat of our family, the join button is waiting. Are you ready for the unfiltered, tender truth? Let's begin. Picture an ordinary night in Istanbul. The city breathes beneath a quilt of stars, the Bosphorus gliding like a ribbon of ink, ferrying the city's secrets from shore to shore. In a discreet, refined restaurant, one of those sanctuaries where conversation is hushed and boundaries are respected, a small circle of friends gathers. Among them, Elçin Sangu. We're used to seeing her as a force of nature, poised and radiant, slipping into demanding roles with effortless finesse. On social media, her smile is a lighthouse, her life, a carousel of achievements and dazzling frames. But that night, dear friends of Secrets Behind the Stars, the facade loosened, and the truth stepped forward. Dinner began softly, crystal chiming, laughter rising and settling like feathers after long days on set. They spoke of upcoming plans, of flights and beaches, of projects queued and ready. But as the evening stretched, and the guardrails people build around their hearts gave way, conversation drifted into dangerous waters, love. Past romances. Hearts once broken and never quite mended. The old question of whether time really cures what it cannot undo. And right then, something inside Elçin shifted. It wasn't theatrics. Not a diva moment. It was the sudden give of a dam that had held back a tide for far too long. Those present, sources close to the scene, their own pulses quickening, describe a subtle change in her eyes. That lively spark we all know softened, and a veil of sorrow fell across it, thick enough to touch. Tears, brave and uninvited, welled. And in that gentle collapse, she stopped pretending. Tired of always performing strength, tired of having to grin when all she wanted was to howl at the silence, she let the truth speak. And the words that came out left everyone, first them, now us, astonished. I tried to move forward, she admitted, her voice trembling like a violin string pulled too tight. I posed for the lenses, kept telling myself and everyone else that I was fine. But the truth is, Baris is still a cut inside me that refuses to close. Let's linger on that image. Not a memory. Not an ex. A cut. A wound is living, it stings when brushed, throbs when you breathe, aches when you think you've forgotten it. That metaphor is ruthless in its honesty. It tells us that, despite the months slipping away, despite distance and disconnection, that thread tying her to Baris Arduc hasn't snapped. It's there, insistent, tender, and raw. She kept going, ignoring the anxious glances around her, as if she needed this purging more than sleep. Some mornings I wake up and feel powerful, she said. I think I'm past it. But then a song plays in a car I didn't expect to take, or a scent drifts by, cologne, rain on stone, and suddenly he's back in my head. Or I spot something I know he'd appreciate, and I realize he never really left the room. That confession hits with the force of recognition. Who hasn't felt it? You walk down a street feeling lighter, and then a nothing detail, a trivial echo, opens the floor beneath you. Watching a woman as accomplished as Elçin claim this vulnerability doesn't strip her power, it deepens it. In an industry that treats love pain like a flaw to be hidden, she chose candor, and that choice is its own crown. What surfaced next was the suffocating weight of public expectation. Elçin touched the bruise with care. People expect me to glow, she said softly. They see the magazine covers, the rehearsed laughter, the gowns. But inside, sometimes it feels like a piece of me hasn't come home. Imagine having to act not only when a director calls action but also when you get groceries, when you slip into a cab, when a flashbulb surprises you at midnight. Imagine smiling as if it were a garment you had to wear. We don't always account for that toll. We see the star, we forget the quiet. Somewhere a woman returns to an immaculate apartment, and the rooms remember the echoes of a laugh that once belonged to someone who isn't there anymore. And then comes the inevitable question. What is happening in Baris Arduc's mind and heart? He has always guarded his inner weather, kept his storms private. Does he know how deep she's hurting? Is it possible he's walking through his own private winter, held back by pride, by circumstance, by that strange human fear that the truth will shatter what little peace remains? Their chemistry had been undeniable, a blaze that lit up sets and spilled off screen into every whispering corner of the fandom. When such heat goes cold, it doesn't glide out like a candle. It erupts, flinging sparks for months. There are murmurs, soft enough to doubt, loud enough to notice. That he might have reached out recently, or that she heard something about him that ripped the seam open again. We cannot swear to any of it. But one thing feels certain, if his heart beats the way we think it does, hearing that the woman with whom he shared so many moments calls him a cut that refuses to close would rock him to his core. Back at the table, her friends gathered themselves and did what friends do. They offered the familiar lifelines. Time will soothe, you're stronger than this, love reweaves itself. But Elçin, steady even as she shook, spoke with scary clarity. There are bonds time doesn't erase. And she's right. Time blunts the blade, it does not delete what was carved by a love that changed two people's shapes. The night ended cradled in a group embrace, a human net knotted by those who know her best. Elçin is resilient, one attendee said later, requesting anonymity. But what she felt for Baris was too immense to vanish between dusk and dawn. For the fans who still whispered Daphne and Omer like a prayer, who replay those scenes and insist it wasn't just good acting, this lands like confirmation. It never was merely a storyline for them. It was life, complicated and glittering and sharp. And that's why it stings. Now I turn to you, our secrets behind the stars family. What do you make of this confession? Have you ever worn a smile like armor while your heart begged for quiet? Should Baris step toward her after hearing words this tender and this brave? Or do you think some loves must be left to harden into scars on their own time? Speak in the comments, your stories matter here. We're here to listen. And remember, untangling feelings this delicate takes care and time. If you value how we hold these stories, with empathy, without sensationalism, hit join. Members get deeper dives and the kinds of conversations we don't always share publicly. It's the best way to say thank you and to sustain a kind of gossip that keeps humanity at the center. The question hovering now, is this a turning point or a final punctuation mark? Sometimes you crash into the bottom so you can push off toward the surface, and naming your pain out loud becomes the first real breath. Maybe Elçin needed these words to escape her chest so the healing can finally start. Or maybe this is a bottled message to the only person who can soothe that cut, Baris. Fate has a habit of separating people so they can learn the worth of what they had, and then returning them to each other when they are clearer, calmer, more aware. We, as an audience, have always held a little flame for reconciliation. Hearing how much love still lives inside the ache fans that flame. But hope carries its own caution, no one wants to watch her break again. It's delicate beyond measure. On one side, a brilliant woman stepping into her hurt with honesty. On the other, a man whose silence may be its own confession. Celebrity relationships are a maze of pressures, judgments, and intrusions. Yet real love has a talent for speaking through the noise when it needs to be heard. The cut she names proves what they shared was not a summer's drift. It was something that rearranged them. So will this pain mellow into a memory as they drift onto separate roads, or will it become the very reason they try to mend what was torn? With or without him, we want peace for Elçin's heart. And still, after everything we've heard tonight, tell me who wouldn't wish to see them give it one more honest chance? Love, at its fiercest, has earned a second try. We've reached the end of this intense and tender chapter. The words of Elçin's Sangu will echo for a long while, a reminder that behind the glimmer there are true people with fragile, faithful feelings. We at Secrets Behind the Stars will keep following every subtle movement of this story, hoping for the outcome that harms no one and honors the truth they once shared. If this touched you, like it, send it to those who believe in Turkish love stories, and subscribe. Turn on the bell, because if Baris answers, you'll hear it here first. Thank you for letting us carry this moment with you. A warm embrace. Until next time.